President Donald Trump ran his campaign in 2016 on the promise of securing the southern border of the United States. But unfortunately, he wasn't able to finish as he only served one term. And it seems like the issue of securing the border has only become more and more difficult under the watchful eye of Joe Biden. Luckily, the governor of Texas, Mr. Abbott, is doing what Joe Biden isn't, and is finishing the wall Trump started. Americans should certainly consider themselves lucky, as their politician called Abbott isn't a complete moron.
If we recruit the 10,000 police men and women over a 4-year period, we believe it'll be about £300,000.
£300,000 for 10,000 police officers? What are you paying them?
Sorry.
How much will they cost?
It will cost about £80 million.
About £80 million?
Yeah.
Diane Abbott there, she's trying her best. We should just probably leave it there. According to the governor himself while he was on Fox News, Joe Biden is actively making it harder to secure the border. How, you ask? Well, there are plenty of border fence panels that could be used that are sitting out in the open and rusting. Governor Abbott has not been given permission to use them at all, so he's having to make new ones. All at the expense of the Texas taxpayer, I remind you. And that, I say again, is despite the fact there are perfectly good fence panels just sitting around in storage ready to be used, but they're having to build new ones out of pocket, which is both outrageous and a real waste of resources. You know, it seems to me like Joe Biden wants to keep the southern border open. Imagine that. But borders are racist, I've read from leftists as they foam from the mouth with vitriol. Unless you're Joe Biden, of course, who paid $500,000 to put a fence around his home. I mean, it is in Delaware, right, so it's understandable. We know how Biden feels about black people. Remember how he didn't want his children to grow up in a racial jungle? Classic Joe. Now, why might Joe Biden want to keep the border open? Well, if it's even his decision. I imagine the people making these decisions are the same people that Joe Biden doesn't want to get in trouble with when he takes questions from the press. But the point is, the border is intentionally open, and I think that's for a reason, and I think the reason is because they want to dilute the electorate of America by packing certain areas with people who are more likely to vote for the right party. There are even areas in America considering giving illegal immigrants the ability to vote, because that's not an absolutely insane idea at all. Absolutely not. No, not at all. And I'm sure somebody will comment, you know, if illegals can't vote anyway, how can they be padding the electorate? Because they're not going to stay illegal forever, are they? They're going to be given documents and made legal. That's the point, is laying the groundwork, so just go bug someone else. Sorry everyone else, I just had to get that off my chest. This information may be just a little bit out of date, but I don't think it is. Anyway, bear with me. There are debates going on in certain states about if criminals should be given the ability to vote. Some can't, even after leaving prison. It was called being disenfranchised. But if you're a criminal, because you've come to America illegally, you'll be able to vote. This gives illegal immigrants rights that some Americans don't have. But you can see why a political party would be interested in giving illegal immigrants a backdoor into America, where they're then bused to certain areas, which I would bet money on being in swing states, giving them the right to vote, as well as other political incentives to vote for the right people. You can see why they would do that, right? It pretty much ensures their power. I'm not saying it's good, because it's definitely not, but you can see the incentive and the mentality behind it. But if that is the reason, then what's the cost? If you get into power, you're meant to protect Americans. Well, how many would have died from all the violence and drugs brought with the migrants? Given everything that the administration has done wrong at the border, you think that they would want to be seen doing something to help, or at least not doing things to deliberately make it harder. But they haven't. They've deliberately made it harder and harder. One of the ways is by banning horses. There is a clip, I'm sure you've seen it, of a border agent controlling his horse near some migrants coming across the border. When the President of the United States saw it, his first reaction wasn't, wow, that's a lot of migrants coming across the border into my country, which it should have been. His reaction was along the lines of, hey, under the right light, if you tilt your head and squint a little bit, it looks like he's whipping the migrants. But this clip has been debunked time and time again. Not just by YouTubers like me, but by actual experts. Of course, they've had to go on conservative news outlets to get the story out there. I mean, there's absolutely no way a leftist media outlet is going to come out and say, oh, actually, no, this white guy isn't whipping the migrants. This is like a wet dream to them. So now, instead of doing their job on some nice environmentally friendly horses, they're going to have to use some nice, big, gas-guzzling SUV. And even if they do, there's certain rough terrain that vehicles can't go across. So, good job, Joe! And despite it being debunked, the media continue to run with the headlines, stating it as an absolute fact. So anyone looking into it will think it's absolutely true, because it's being presented as true. You notice there's no so-called fact-checkers to be seen as far as this is concerned, and they wonder why people are losing trust in the mainstream media. And trust in the current administration too, if it really ever existed. I'm going to stop here, although I feel like there's a lot more to say about the border, and Joe Biden, although that'll be a separate video, so look forward to that. Let me know what you thought of the video down below, and as always, thank you for your time.
I suppose some people will judge that on balance, Mao did more good than harm. We can't say that about the Nazis.
What was the good? Remind me what the good bit was.
Serious,
Well, it's funny. I just had this debate with my son.
I wish this were in private time.
Well, I just had this debate with my son.
Still like all these old lefty dictators.
He-
Mao killed tens of millions of people.
Let's just say to Diane that you call Stalin the greatest ever dictator. In terms of mass murder, he isn't on the same page as Mao that Diane apparently
Well, I
called.
was just putting the case for Mao.
But,
I mean, the point about...
like Mao, he did lead his people from feudalism.
Those who had not been murdered were led from feudalism.
Yes, those who survived the pogroms.